The Vorkith had ruled the stars for 3,000 years. In all that time, no species had ever defeated them. No army had ever made them retreat. No enemy had ever made them feel afraid. They were the ultimate hunters, the apex predators of the galaxy, and every living creature knew to fear their name. The Vorkith were terrifying to look at. They stood 8 feet tall, with thick armored scales covering their entire bodies. Their eyes could see heat, allowing them to hunt in complete darkness. Their claws were sharp enough to tear through metal. Their teeth could crush bone like it was nothing. They moved with the speed and grace of born killers, because that is exactly what they were. Their home world had made them this way. It was a harsh planet where only the strongest survived. The weak died young. The strong grew stronger. Over millions of years, the Vorkith evolved into perfect killing machines. When they finally built spaceships and left their world, they brought their hunter instincts with them. The Galactic Council was supposed to govern the known universe. It was made up of hundreds of different species who had agreed to live in peace. But when the Vorkith arrived, everything changed. They did not ask to join the council. They demanded tribute. They took what they wanted. Any species that refused was destroyed completely. The council tried to fight back at first. They gathered their armies and sent them against the Vorkith. It was a disaster. The Vorkith moved too fast, hit too hard, and showed no mercy. Within a single year, the council surrendered. They agreed to pay tribute and stay out of the Vorkith's way. It was humiliating, but it was better than extinction. For 3,000 years, this was how things worked. The Vorkith took whatever they wanted. They conquered planet after planet, adding to their great dominion. Some species tried to rebel. All of them failed. The Vorkith had never lost a war. Many believed they never could. High Warlord Krasvith was the supreme leader of the Vorkith Dominion. He had killed his way to the top, defeating every challenger in ritual combat. His scales were covered in scars from 100 battles. His eyes burned with the cold fire of a true predator. He had personally led the conquest of 30 worlds, and he had never known defeat. Krasvith sat on his throne made of bones when his scouts brought him the news. They had found a new species on the edge of the galaxy. A small blue planet called Earth, orbiting an average yellow star. The creatures living there called themselves humans. The scouts showed Krasvith images of these humans. He studied them carefully. They were small, standing only 5 or 6 feet tall. They had no claws, no fangs, no armor. Their skin was soft and easily broken. Their eyes could not see in the dark. They were slow compared to Vorkith warriors. They seemed weak in every possible way. "Tell me about their military," Krasvith commanded. The scouts explained that humans had only recently learned to travel between stars. Their technology was primitive compared to the Vorkith. Their ships were slow and poorly armed. They had established a few small colonies on nearby planets, but nothing impressive. They seemed to spend most of their time fighting among themselves. Krasvith listened to all of this, and then he did something rare. He laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound that echoed through his throne room. "These creatures are prey," he declared. "They are soft and weak and slow. They will make excellent slaves. We will add them to our dominion, and they will serve us for eternity." His war council agreed enthusiastically. Some of them joked about how easy this conquest would be. One general suggested they could conquer Earth with just a handful of ships. Another said they should not waste good warriors on such pathetic enemies. Krasvith held up his clawed hand for silence. "We will not make the mistake of arrogance," he said. "We will send a proper invasion fleet. Not because we need it, but because it is our way. We are Vorkith. We do not give our prey any chance to escape." He assigned the task to Fleet Commander Thelrix, one of his most trusted warriors. Thelrix was young, but had already proven himself in battle many times. He was eager to add another conquest to his name. "How long do you need?" Krasvith asked. Thelrix thought for a moment. He reviewed the information about human defenses, their population, their colonies. Then he answered with complete confidence. 7 rotations, my warlord. I will crush their resistance in 7 rotations and deliver their world to you as a gift. Krasvith nodded with approval. See that you do. I want their leaders brought before me in chains. I want to see these humans bow. The invasion fleet departed 3 cycles later. It consisted of 500 warships, each one carrying thousands of Vorkith warriors eager for battle. They were the most feared military force in the known galaxy. They had never been stopped. They expected this conquest to be quick and easy dot as the fleet traveled toward human space. Thelrix reviewed everything his scouts had learned about these strange creatures. The more he studied them, the less he understood. Humans seemed to fight constantly, yet they also created beautiful art and music. They were physically weak, yet they had spread to multiple planets in a very short time. They had short lifespans, yet they seemed to accomplish great things in their brief years. One detail caught his attention. Humans had evolved on a planet filled with dangerous predators. They had survived by working together, using tools, and never giving up. Thelrix found this interesting but not concerning. Many prey species worked together. It never saved them from the Vorkith. He pushed the thought aside and focused on his battle plans. In just a few cycles, he would reach the human colony of New Helsinki on Proxima Centauri. He would demand their surrender. If they refused, he would destroy them. It was simple. It was the Vorkith way. Thelrix had no idea that he was sailing toward the worst defeat in his species' history. He had no idea that these soft, slow, clawless humans would teach the Vorkith something they had never experienced before. He had no idea that for the first time in 3,000 years, the hunters were about to become the hunted. The Vorkith fleet appeared in the sky above New Helsinki like a dark cloud of death. 500 warships blocked out the stars. Their massive hulls cast shadows over the small human colony below. It was a terrifying sight, designed to break the spirit of any enemy before the fighting even began. Fleet Commander Thelrix stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked down at the planet. New Helsinki was a young colony, established just 15 years ago. It had a population of about 200,000 humans. They had built their city in a frozen valley, surrounded by mountains and endless snow. It looked fragile and exposed. Thelrix activated his communication system and broadcast his message to the planet below. His voice was cold and commanding, translated into the human language by his ship's computers. Creatures of this world, I am Fleet Commander Thelrix of the Vorkith Dominion. Your planet now belongs to us. You have 2 choices. Surrender immediately and serve us as slaves, or resist and be completely destroyed. You have 1 hour to decide. This was standard procedure for the Vorkith. Every species they had encountered had chosen surrender when faced with such overwhelming force. It was the logical choice. The smart choice. The only choice that allowed survival. Thelrix waited patiently for the humans to respond. He expected begging, pleading, desperate attempts to negotiate. That was what prey always did. Instead, he received a message containing only 2 words. Come down. Thelrix stared at the message for a long moment. His officers exchanged confused looks. This had never happened before. No species had ever responded to Vorkith demands with such simple defiance. They must not understand their situation, one officer suggested. Perhaps their translators made an error. Thelrix shook his head slowly. No, they understood perfectly. They simply do not care. A strange feeling stirred in his chest. He did not recognize it. He pushed it aside. "Prepare the ground assault. We will teach these creatures the price of defiance." 10,000 Vorkith warriors descended to the planet's surface as the sun rose over the frozen mountains. They landed in perfect formation around the human city. Their armor gleamed. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy. They were ready to kill. But when they entered the city, they found nothing. The streets were empty. The buildings were abandoned. There were no humans anywhere. The entire population seemed to have vanished without a trace. Vorkith scouts searched everywhere, but found only silence and shadows. "Where are they?" Telrix demanded over his communication link. Before anyone could answer, the ground exploded. The humans had buried bombs beneath the streets. They had spent weeks preparing the city as a giant trap. The explosions tore through Vorkith formations, sending warriors flying through the air. Buildings that seemed empty suddenly collapsed, crushing soldiers beneath tons of rubble. And then the humans appeared. They came from underground tunnels. They came from hidden bunkers in the mountains. They came from the frozen wilderness where their heat signatures could not be detected. They came with weapons that fired metal projectiles at incredible speed. They came with explosives strapped to their bodies. They came with a fury that the Vorkith had never witnessed. The battle for New Helsinki became a nightmare. The humans did not fight with honor. They did not stand in formations and face their enemies directly. Instead, they hid in shadows and attacked without warning. They set traps everywhere. They used the frozen weather to their advantage, attacking at night when the cold affected Vorkith's senses. They worked in small teams, striking fast and then disappearing before the Vorkith could respond. Vorkith warriors were trained to hunt prey that ran away. These humans did not run. They attacked, retreated, and attacked again. They seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Every street corner hid a sniper. Every building contained an ambush. Every victory seemed to lead to another trap. Commander Thelrix led his elite guard into the heart of the city. He was determined to find the human leaders and end this resistance. His warriors were the best of the best, veterans of 100 conquests. Nothing had ever stopped them. They entered a large building that their scouts said contained human commanders. Inside, they found only a single wounded human soldier. She was young, with short dark hair and fierce eyes. Blood ran down her face from a cut on her forehead. Her leg was clearly broken. She could not escape. Dalrix approached her slowly. In his experience, wounded prey always begged for mercy. This human did not beg. She smiled. "What is your name, creature?" Thalrix demanded. "Sergeant Maria Chun," she replied. Her voice was steady despite her pain. "And you made a big mistake coming in here." The building exploded. Maria had been waiting for the Vorkith to gather inside before triggering the hidden charges. She had used herself as bait, knowing she would die. Thalrix survived only because his armor absorbed most of the blast. Dozens of his elite warriors were not so lucky. As he crawled out of the rubble, Thalrix found another wounded human. This one was male, older, with gray in his hair. He was dying, but he was still conscious. He was still fighting. Thalrix grabbed a human and lifted him off the ground. "Why?" he demanded. "Why you fight? You cannot win. You are weak. You are outnumbered. Why do you not surrender?" The human coughed blood and then laughed. It was a strange sound, filled with dark amusement. "You really don't understand, do you?" The human said. "You think you're predators. You think we're prey. But you've never fought something like us before. What are you?" Thalrix asked. The human's eyes met his. There was no fear in them, only a fierce, burning determination. "We evolved on a planet where everything wanted to kill us. Lions, wolves, bears, sharks, snakes, disease, weather, each other. We spent 1,000,000 years being hunted by everything with teeth and claws. And you know what? We survived. We survived them all. We didn't survive because we were the strongest or the fastest. We survived because we never ever gave up. The human's voice grew weaker, but his words remained clear. You want to know what we are? We're the species that figured out how to hunt the hunters. We're the prey that became predators. And you just picked a fight with the most stubborn, vengeful, creative killers in the galaxy. The human died with a smile on his face. Thelrix stood alone in the ruins, surrounded by the bodies of his warriors. For the first time in his life, he felt something cold crawling through his chest. He did not know what to call it. It was doubt. The battle for New Helsinki lasted 30 days. The Vorkith eventually took the colony, but at a terrible cost. They lost 2,000 warriors to capture a city of 200,000 civilians. The humans had fought to the last soldier. They had made the Vorkith pay in blood for every street, every building, every room. When Thelrix sent his report to High Warlord Krasvith, he did not lie. He could not hide the truth. My warlord, he said, these humans are different. They do not fight like any species we have encountered. They are dangerous. We need more warriors. Many more. Krasvith listened to the report with growing anger. This was not how conquests were supposed to go. This was not how prey was supposed to behave. You will have your reinforcements, he said coldly. And then you will crush these humans completely. Make them pay for every Vorkith life they have taken. Thelrix bowed his head. It will be done, my warlord. But as the communication ended, both warriors felt something they had never felt before: uncertainty. The Vorkith sent 10 times more warriors to human space. Where 500 ships had failed, now 5,000 ships arrived. High Warlord Krasvith was determined to crush this strange resistance quickly and completely. He would show the galaxy that no species could defy the Vorkith and survive. Fleet. Commander Thelrix led the reinforced invasion force against the remaining human colonies. He had learned from his mistakes at New Helsinki. He would not underestimate these creatures again. He ordered his warriors to burn everything, show no mercy, and leave nothing standing. The Vorkith swept through human space like a storm of death. They attacked colony after colony, destroying cities and killing millions. Their superior technology and overwhelming numbers seemed unstoppable. Human ships were blown apart in space. Human armies were crushed on the ground. It looked like the end for humanity, but something strange began to happen. The humans did not break. No matter how many times the Vorkith defeated them, they kept fighting. When one army was destroyed, another appeared. When one city fell, the survivors joined resistance groups and continued to fight from the shadows. When captured, humans refused to reveal information, even under torture. They died with their secrets. Thelrix had conquered dozens of species. All of them eventually gave up. All of them reached a point where they lost hope and accepted their fate. The humans never reached that point. They just kept fighting, day after day, year after year. The Vorkith learned a new word from their human prisoners. The word was attrition. It meant slowly wearing down an enemy over time, trading losses for losses until one side had nothing left. Humans were very good at attrition. They seemed willing to sacrifice everything if it meant hurting the Vorkith. Even more disturbing was human endurance. Vorkith warriors were faster and stronger than humans in short bursts. But humans could keep going for hours without rest. Their bodies had evolved for long-distance travel. They could march all day, fight a battle, and then march again. They did not stop to sleep when Vorkith warriors collapsed from exhaustion. Vorkith raiding parties learned to fear human pursuit. They would attack a human position, thinking they had won, and then retreat to rest. Hours later, the same humans would appear again, having tracked the Vorkith through the wilderness without stopping. The hunters became the hunted. Human medicine was equally terrifying. The Vorkith believed that serious wounds meant death or retirement from battle. Humans disagreed. Their doctors performed incredible surgery right on the battlefield. They cut open wounded soldiers, fixed their damaged organs, sewed them back together, and sent them back to fight within weeks. Humans who should have died kept appearing in battle, covered in scars but still holding weapons. The Vorkith began to call humans the undying ones. Worst of all was the human mind. Humans adapted to every Vorkith tactic within days. They studied Vorkith weapons and learned to avoid them. They analyzed Vorkith battle formations and found their weaknesses. They captured Vorkith technology and figured out how to use it against its creators. Whatever the Vorkith did, humans found a counter. 3 years into the invasion, the Vorkith controlled most of human space. But they had paid a terrible price. 30,000 warriors were dead. Hundreds of ships were destroyed. The conquest that was supposed to take 7 rotations was now entering its 4th year with no end in sight. And the nightmares began. Vorkith warriors started reporting disturbing dreams. They dreamed of human eyes watching them from darkness. They dreamed of human voices whispering threats. They dreamed of human soldiers rising from the dead to fight again. Some warriors woke up screaming. Others refused to sleep at all. The Vorkith had no word for this. They had never experienced it. Mental weakness was unknown to their species. Yet something about fighting humans was breaking their minds. Thelrix investigated the problem personally. He interviewed warriors who had fought on the front lines for months. What he heard disturbed him deeply. "They sing," one warrior told him. His eyes were hollow, haunted. When they know they are going to die, they sing. Happy songs. Sad songs. Songs about their homes and their families. They sing while they charge into our weapons. They sing while they bleed out on the ground. How can any creature face death and sing? Another warrior described a different horror. "We surrounded a human squad. 50 of us against 10 of them. They had no chance. They knew they had no chance. But they did not surrender. They fought for 6 hours. When their weapons ran out of ammunition, they threw rocks. When they had no rocks, they used their hands. The last one alive bit off my finger before I killed him. Why would they not just give up?" Thelrix had no answers. He reported these concerns to High Warlord Krasvith, but the warlord dismissed them. "These are just stories from tired soldiers," Krasvith said. "Humans are nothing but animals. They fight on instinct, nothing more. Increase the pressure, and they will break like all the others." Thelrix obeyed, but he was not convinced. He had looked into human eyes. He had seen something there that he did not understand. It was not instinct. It was something else. Something deeper. Purpose. Humans believed in things. They fought for their families, their friends, their planet, their future. They were willing to die for these beliefs. More importantly, they were willing to keep living and suffering for these beliefs. They would endure any hardship, face any horror, as long as their cause survived. The Vorkith did not understand this. They fought for power, for glory, for dominance. When a cause was lost, they abandoned it. When a battle could not be won, they retreated. Survival was the highest priority. Humans had different priorities. They would rather die than betray their people. They would rather suffer than give up. They would rather lose everything than stop fighting. This made them dangerous in ways the Vorkith could not calculate. As the war dragged on, Thelrix noticed something else troubling. The other species of the galaxy were watching. The Galactic Council, which had trembled before the Vorkith for 3,000 years, was paying attention. They saw humans resisting the unbeatable enemy. They saw Vorkith warriors dying by the thousands. They saw the mighty Dominion struggling against a species they had dismissed as weak. Hope is a dangerous thing. For 3,000 years, the conquered peoples of the galaxy had lived without hope. The Vorkith were too strong. Resistance was impossible. Better to submit and survive. Now they were starting to wonder. If humans could fight back, maybe they could too. Thalrix could feel the change spreading across the stars. The Vorkith Dominion was built on fear. And for the first time in 3,000 years, that fear was starting to fade. He sent an urgent message to High Warlord Krasvith. "My warlord, we must end this war quickly. Every day it continues, our empire grows weaker. The humans are not just fighting us. They are showing the galaxy how to fight us. If we do not crush them soon, we may face rebellions on 100 worlds." Krasvith read the message and made his decision. "If we cannot defeat them piece by piece," he declared, "then we will cut off the head. Assemble every ship in the Dominion. We march on Earth." The final battle was coming. High Warlord Krasvith assembled the largest fleet in Vorkith history. Over 10,000 warships gathered from every corner of the Dominion. 2 million warriors prepared for battle. It was a force that could conquer entire civilizations. It was all aimed at one small blue planet. Earth. The journey to the human homeworld took 3 months. During that time, Krasvith planned his assault carefully. He studied every report from the war so far. He learned from every mistake his commanders had made. He would not underestimate the humans. He would crush them with overwhelming force and leave nothing behind. The human fleet met them at the edge of the solar system. It was a brave but hopeless gesture. The humans had gathered every ship they could find, but they numbered only 300 against 10,000. Their technology was still primitive compared to Vorkith weapons. They had no chance of winning. They fought anyway. The space battle lasted 12 hours. Human ships charged directly at the Vorkith fleet, firing everything they had. They aimed for engines, for bridges, for weapon systems. When their missiles ran out, they rammed Vorkith ships with their own vessels. Suicide attacks claimed dozens of Vorkith warships. For every Vorkith ship destroyed, 20 human ships were lost. It was exactly the kind of exchange the humans could not afford. But they had never expected to win this battle. They were buying time. While the fleet fought and died in space, the people of Earth prepared. Civilians evacuated to underground shelters. Soldiers took positions in cities and mountains and forests. Factories worked day and night, producing weapons and ammunition. Everyone who could hold a gun was given one. The orbital defenses fell after 2 days. The Vorkith bombarded Earth's cities from space, turning great buildings into rubble. Millions died in the initial attacks. The survivors kept fighting. Krasvith landed his forces on every continent. He wanted to end this war personally. He wanted to walk through human cities and see their leaders bow before him. He chose to lead the assault on a human city called Volgograd, near the ruins of an older city called Stalingrad. The humans had broadcast a message specifically inviting him there. They said they had chosen this place for him. They said it had special meaning. Krasvith did not understand the reference. He did not care. He would destroy this city like all the others. He was wrong. The Battle of Volgograd became a nightmare that the Vorkith would remember for generations. The humans had turned every building into a fortress. They had dug tunnels connecting the entire city underground. They had hidden weapons and supplies in thousands of locations. They had prepared for years, knowing this day would come. Vorkith warriors entered the city, expecting quick victory. Instead, they found hell. Every street was a death trap. Snipers fired from windows and rooftops. Explosives were buried under roads. Buildings collapsed on advancing columns. The humans attacked from front and behind at the same time. They appeared from manholes, from basements, from piles of rubble that seemed like safe cover. The Vorkith could not use their superior numbers. The narrow streets made large formations impossible. Their advanced weapons were less useful in close combat. Their armored vehicles got stuck in rubble and became targets for human rockets. Day after day, the fighting continued. The Vorkith would capture a block, then lose it to a counterattack. They would clear a building, then find humans had returned through the tunnels. They would advance one street and pay for it with hundreds of dead. Krasveth led his elite guard into the heart of the city. He was determined to break the human resistance personally. His warriors were the finest in the Dominion, survivors of countless battles. They had never failed him. They fought through 3 miles of destroyed streets. Every step cost blood. Krasveth himself killed dozens of humans, using his claws when his weapons overheated. His scales were covered in burns and cuts. He had never fought so hard in his life. Finally, they reached what the humans called their command center. It was an old building, half destroyed by bombs but still standing. Vorkith scouts said the human commanders were inside. Krasveth broke down the door and charged in with his guard. Inside, he found only ordinary soldiers. Young humans, old humans, men and women with bandages covering their wounds. They were armed with simple weapons, nothing that could harm a Vorkith warlord. They were the last defenders of this building. One of them stepped forward. She was a small woman with dark skin and gray hair. Her left arm was in a sling. Her face was covered in dust and dried blood. She held a small knife in her good hand. "You must be the leader," Krasveth said. "I am High Warlord Krasveth, Supreme Commander of the Vorkith Dominion. You will kneel before me." The woman laughed. It was not a afraid laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had already accepted death and found it funny. "I'm not the leader," she said. "I'm just a grandmother from Moscow. I came here to fight because my granddaughter is hiding underground, and I want her to grow up free." She raised her knife and charged at Kraz single Kv Trashstad. She had no chance. Krasveth knocked the knife aside easily. His claws tore through her body. She fell to the ground, dying, but she was still smiling. "You already lost," she whispered. "You just don't know it yet." Her companions attacked then. All of them. They threw themselves at the Vorkith guards with nothing but knives and bare hands. They screamed battle cries and sang songs as they charged into certain death. It was over in seconds. Every human in the room was killed. But they had taken 4 Vorkith warriors with them. 4 elite soldiers, killed by civilians with kitchen knives. Krasveth stood in the silence after the battle. His hearts were pounding. His claws were shaking. He looked down at the grandmother's body and felt something he had never felt before. Fear, not fear of dying. Vorkith did not fear death. Fear of something else. Fear of these creatures who fought without hope of victory. Fear of this species that would send grandmothers with knives against the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Fear of an enemy that could not be broken, could not be intimidated, could not be stopped. The siege of Volgograd lasted 8 months. The Vorkith eventually captured the city, but it cost them 100,000 warriors. 100,000 of the Dominion's finest, killed in a single city on a single planet. Similar reports came from all over Earth. Every city was a bloodbath. Every forest hid ambushes. Every mountain contained tunnels full of fighters. The humans died by the millions, but they never stopped fighting. When Earth finally fell, Krasveth stood in the ruins and tried to feel victorious. He felt nothing but a cold emptiness in his chest. He had conquered Earth, but he had lost something far more important. He had lost the belief that the Vorkith could never be defeated. The Vorkith Dominion celebrated the conquest of Earth. High Warlord Krasveth announced total victory to the galaxy. Human resistance had been crushed. Their homeworld was in Vorkith hands. The war was over. It was a lie. Krasveth knew it. His commanders knew it. And soon the entire galaxy would know it too. The conquest of Earth had cost the Dominion 60% of its military. 600,000 Vorkith warriors lay dead. Over 3,000 warships were destroyed. The greatest army the galaxy had ever seen was now a broken shadow of itself, and the humans were not finished. While the Vorkith had focused everything on conquering Earth, the human colonies had been busy. They had gathered survivors from destroyed worlds. They had built secret factories on hidden moons. They had collected every piece of Vorkith technology they could find and learned how to copy it. They had trained millions of new soldiers. Most importantly, they had been planning revenge. 6 months after Earth fell, the human counterattack began. It started with the supply lines. Human raiders appeared from nowhere and attacked Vorkith transport ships. Food, weapons, fuel, all the things an army needs to survive. The humans destroyed them without mercy. Vorkith garrisons on conquered worlds began to starve. Then came the rebellions. On a dozen planets across the Dominion, species that had been slaves for centuries suddenly rose up against their masters. They had watched the humans fight. They had seen the Vorkith bleed. They had learned that the great hunters could be hurt. The Vorkiths found themselves fighting a war on 100 fronts. Every time they sent ships to one crisis, 2 more erupted somewhere else. Their empire was too large and their army too small. They could not be everywhere at once. Human ships appeared in Vorkith space, painted with the names of destroyed colonies. New Helsinki, Proxima Station, Armstrong City, Earth. Every ship carried the memory of the dead and the fury of the survivors. The humans called this strategy total war. They did not fight for territory or resources. They fought for destruction. They fought for vengeance. They fought to make the Vorkith pay for every life they had taken. Krasvith watched his empire crumble. Every report brought more bad news. Rebellions, defeats, retreats. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Vorkith were losing. He called Fleet Commander Thelrix to his throne room. Thelrix had survived the war so far, though he was changed. His eyes were tired. His movements were slow. The endless fighting had worn him down. "Tell me honestly," Krasva said. "Can we still win this war?" Thelrix was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke the truth. "No, my warlord. We cannot. The humans are too many, too angry, and too determined. They will not stop until we are destroyed or we surrender. There is no other outcome." Krasvith slammed his fist against his throne. "The Vorkith have never surrendered. We are predators. We are conquerors. We do not bow to prey. The humans are not prey," Thelrix replied quietly. "I do not know what they are, but they are not prey." The war continued for 4 more years. The Vorkith fought with everything they had. They won battles here and there, but they could not stop the tide. Human fleets grew larger, while Vorkith fleets grew smaller. Human soldiers appeared on world after world, liberating populations and turning them against the Dominion. Finally, the humans reached the Vorkith homeworld. 1,000 human warships appeared in orbit around the planet where the Vorkith species had been born. They did not attack immediately. Instead, they sent a message. "People of Vorkith," the message said, "we are not here to destroy you. We are here to end this war. You have 2 choices. Surrender and live in peace, or fight and die. Choose." It was the same choice the Vorkith had given humanity 5 years earlier. The humans had answered with defiance. Now the Vorkith had to make their own choice. Krasvith wanted to fight. He wanted to die in battle like a true warrior. But his people had suffered enough. His species had lost half its population. Their empire was gone. Their pride was broken. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Vorkith surrendered. The peace treaty was signed on a human ship called the Remembrance. Krasvith walked through corridors lined with human soldiers. They did not attack him. They did not insult him. They just watched with cold, hard eyes. The human ambassador was a woman named Sarah Okonkwo. She was tall and thin, with silver hair and a face marked by years of war. She had lost her entire family when the Vorkith attacked Earth. She had every reason to hate Krasvith. Instead, she was calm and professional. The treaty terms were harsh but fair. The Vorkith would give up their empire. They would free all the species they had conquered. They would destroy most of their warships. They would pay for the damage they had caused. Krasvith signed everything without argument. He had no choice, but before the ceremony ended, he had one question. How? He asked Sarah Okonkwo, "How did your species do this? You were weak. You were primitive. We should have destroyed you easily. How did you survive?" Sarah considered the question carefully before answering. "You are predators," she said. "You evolved to hunt, to kill, to win quickly and move on to the next target. When something fought back, you destroyed it with overwhelming force. You never learned patience. You never learned to lose and keep fighting." She leaned forward and her eyes met his. "My people evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. Predators hunted us. Diseases killed us. The weather destroyed our homes. Other humans attacked us. We should have gone extinct 100 times. But we didn't. We survived because we learned something that predators never learn." "What?" Krasvith asked. "We learned that survival is not about being the strongest," Sarah said. "It is about being the one who refuses to die. It is about getting up after every defeat. It is about fighting when there is no hope, because fighting is all that matters. It is about loving something so much that you will suffer anything to protect it." She stood up and looked down at the greatest warlord the Vorkith had ever produced. "You were apex predators," she said. "You feared nothing in the galaxy. But you made one mistake. You attacked the one species in the universe that was more stubborn, more vengeful, and more determined than you. You attacked the species that taught itself to hunt predators." She smiled then, and there was no warmth in it. "You attacked humanity. And now you know what fear feels like." The Galactic Council welcomed humanity as full members that year. The vote was unanimous. No species in the galaxy dared to object. The Vorkith Dominion became a memory. Their homeworld survived, but their empire was gone forever. They had ruled the stars for 3,000 years, and it had taken humanity just 9 years to end their reign. A new saying spread across the galaxy. It was whispered in spaceports and trading stations, in council chambers and military academies. Every species learned it. Pray you never give humans a reason to fight, for they are the monsters that monsters fear. And somewhere in the stars, humanity kept watching, kept building, kept remembering. They had learned something important from the Vorkith War. The galaxy was dangerous. Predators were everywhere. And the only way to survive was to become the most dangerous thing of all. Humanity would never be prey again.